Many Kenyans missed some very important pointers, things that happened at Kamkunji that had very wide, far-reaching political implications. Things that happened that told us very clearly where Raila Odinga is going with this. Yeah, most Kenyans missed it. I was even very surprised that very few analysts paid attention to the Kamkunji Declaration. Yeah, the declaration that was read out long before Raila Odinga made his speech. The declaration putting the Ruto government on notice over a number of very pertinent, concerning issues, yeah, that have come out of this Kanu-like government. Some of them roadside declarations, yeah, disguised as executive orders. You know, in the old days, in the old Moi days, former President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi would wake up one morning and decide something. And on his very frequent Meet the People tour, the presidential motorcade would stop somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and a pronouncement, an executive order, would be declared. Now, it is important to note that not all these roadside declarations were bad or with bad intention. And let me give you the perfect example. One day, Moi, who had a very good heart, he loved children, decided that the government was going to give all primary school kids, our precious children, free milk from the government. Now that was a good thing. Indeed, my late wife was once telling me how it benefited her and some of the people she went to school with. Many parents and children from poverty-stricken families all over Kenya will be forever grateful, and they felt that it was God sent. It was good. However, take careful note of the following facts. Immediately Moi made this declaration, this roadside declaration, executive order, it is said that the chief executive of the then KCC, the supplier of milk in Kenya, fainted at his desk. You see, in those days, people paraded on directives. People instructed to do something, and they had to find a way to make it happen. And therefore, this poor manager fainted at his desk, because to him, that was a declaration that was impossible to implement, based on his expert knowledge of the milk situation in the country at that time. So a good thing, but was it practical? Because, for instance, it was supposed to be free milk every day. Now, what happened in the end is that could not work. Yeah, and it ended up being a few days of the week. Indeed, fewer and fewer days of the week as the program progressed, yeah, benefiting our children. And that is my point. Running a government on roadside declarations and executive orders is not a wise thing. It's not practical. In our modern day and age, where so many things have to be considered, so many factors, wide consultations are in order. Yeah. Things have to be done in phases, especially when it involves such a huge animal as the one called government. One has to get their ducks in a row. Yeah. One has to plan. One has to look at things like capacity. Is it possible? Do we have enough milk to do this without disrupting the supply chain for the rest of Kenyans, and indeed for the very same children in their homes? Those are critical questions that need to be addressed. And it can be done by your advisors if you're the president sitting in State House. A handful of advisors come back to you and tell you, Mtukufu Rais, it is possible. It can be done. Go ahead and announce it. Our research of the facts and figures shows us that it is possible. But then we all know that quite often, even after research, vitu kwa ground ziko very different. And so, my friends, it is official. We are back to the Moi days. Because executive orders in recent times, like the decision to reintroduce GMOs into the country, GMO maize and seeds, was a policy decision that begged for wider consultation, planning, etc., etc. But as a result of the hurried executive order, there are so many things that have gone wrong for the UDA government. So many situations that would have been avoidable very easily. Even the Cherera 4 Manenos is something that would have worked like a charm, and gotten those 4 commissioners out, had it been done in a way that included wider consultation, step-by-step planning, step-by-step political acrobatics, etc., etc. It is something that would have been achieved. But then, hurried executive orders and instructions to Parliament has brought us to where we are today, where it has built up to be a major crisis and a headache for the UDA government. Anyway, my apologies, I've really digressed. The Kamkunji Declaration really puts the government on notice over various issues and promises action, mass action, that word that Kenyans fear, demonstrations, protest demonstrations, which many Kenyans fear, but is enshrined in our constitution, is allowed, is indeed a basic human right to protest. God-given first, not even given to us only by the Constitution. Now, many young Kenyans were very disappointed because people are impatient. Punda imechoka. People want action right away. People want demonstrations right away. If you listened in to the people who spoke at Kamkunji, most of them, before the declaration was made public, their view was that we should get going immediately. And remember, Kenyans are still hurting from what happened last August over the presidential elections and the presidential election results. And people who are that emotional don't want to wait. They don't want to do something systematically, slowly, step by step. No. But this is precisely what the Raila strategy is all about. What Raila is avoiding is senseless demonstrations, with no clear agenda. And in many ways, this is just Raila being Raila. There's nothing new here. Although many analysts I know will not agree with me. They will not understand what I'm talking about. So let me break it down. You know, there are many Kenyans who believe that Raila usually instructs people to protest. Yeah, he orders them. Go to the streets. Protest. Nothing can be further from the truth. In 2017, if you allow me to take you back briefly, Raila built up the emotions of Kenyans by exposing what the Jubilee government was doing. And this was a very gradual process. Many rallies and meetings and campaign rallies, etc., etc. Raila's input, coupled with the reaction of the Jubilee government, including the rigging of that presidential election, to give a win to Uhuru Kenyatta, predicted by Raila in his rallies, all that culminated in a situation where the emotions of Raila supporters took over, and he lost control. Those emotions spun very dangerously into a situation where Kenyans wanted Raila to be sworn in as president of Kenya. They wanted nothing less. And Raila Odinga started getting a lot of pressure. I'm sure most of us remember that. He would go into this meeting, and at the end of his speeches, or even at the beginning, the people would ask him directly, when are you eating the Bible? Of course, in Swahili we say, kukula kiapo. That is taking the oath of the office of the president. And the pressure mounted until Raila had no option but to organize what the people wanted. If you didn't know, he works up the emotions, and sometimes they go dangerously out of control and push the same Raila into a corner. Like in January 2018, when he had to take an oath of office as the people's president at Uhuru Park. And so what we're seeing today is the beginning of that Raila process. And this time, with the kinds of things going on in Kenya, with the suffering our people are going through, it is hard to predict how this will end. But it will end very emotionally, for sure. But most importantly, it will end with the liberation of Kenyans. Whichever way you want to look at that. It is very interesting how the government and those making decisions and those paid bloggers of UD and Kenya Kwanza completely missed the point, and assumed Raila was calling for street protest immediately. That is not his style. They were sure that Raila was calling for mass action immediately. That's not how Raila operates. He doesn't. Just some brief research into what has happened in the past would have told them the truth and guided them, not to make a fool of themselves. But then our young people are always in a hurry, in a big hurry. Na wahenga walisema, kijana chunga usikimbie sana, utavunja mguu. In fact, Raila's opponents are also getting something else very wrong. You will already have heard that there are very spirited efforts to reintroduce the office of the official opposition leader. Now, the premise for that may seem logical. It makes sense, or so it seems, because somebody has realized that Raila Odinga will be an obstacle to the draconian things they want to do. He'll be an obstacle to returning Kenya back to the KANU days. And so they have decided, let us take care of Raila. How? By creating an official office with the benefits, with money from the taxpayer of official opposition leader. And I have a strong suspicion that some of the people behind this thinking are not Kenyans. Let me just leave it at that for now. But there's a problem here, because these people have failed to realize something very important here. The issue is not Raila. No. It is Raila's supporters. You see, there are many other gallant Kenyans who have sacrificed for Kenya. People like Koigi Omwere. But these people have not managed to do what Raila has done. They have not managed to remain relevant. So what is Raila's secret? He has always been very close to the heart of his supporters, to the hearts of his people. The masses in Kenya are the real driving force behind Raila. So my question is, are you going to satisfy those people by creating the office of the leader of the opposition, official leader of the opposition? The answer is no. It won't work. In fact, I'll tell you for free, if Raila Odinga accepts such an office, he will be finished politically. It's as simple as that. And so let me put it like this. If you want to govern peacefully, if you want to go ahead with your agenda, your KANU agenda, there's one thing you must do successfully. You must appease Raila supporters, not Raila. And Raila supporters are in the millions. That's the truth. And so, going forward, it'll be super interesting to see how this develops politically in the country. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.